and I feel like it's a great place to kind of transition into your community and into like how that developed and how that started and how people are kind of getting just in everything and in sync, of course, like how this community structure, which I can assume already how it helps them, but how it started and how it's and what it's created in other people's lives. Maybe you can say a few things that you expected and that you haven't expected and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really where it all becomes worth all the sacrifice, and why I still double down on this idea that and Bob Dylan said it the best, right? You got to serve somebody. You got to serve somebody, and
Yeah.
it's it. You know, it's you can look at it as just some like spiritual platitude or whatever, but it really is fulfilling, and I'm sure that you're starting to see that when people come up and they're like, "Yo, that podcast episode was so dope," or "I heard you pitching coaching calls and stuff." So, like I was like, "That's awesome," that he's rolling it into that too, and so as these different facets of who you are begin to impact other people and leave an impression on them, it's for me, it's extremely fulfilling.
Mm.
That I feel like having that sense of service is the key to fulfillment in life. That you can even be overworked, stressed out, and somewhat unhappy and still be fulfilled.
Yeah.
I don't recommend that, but
Yeah.
but
Been there. And
there
I'm
are
sure you too.
distinctions, of kind of like, people kind of lump in, when you say, what do you want? What do you want out of life? Most of the time people just get down to happiness. They just want happiness, but they haven't parsed out what that means to them. A lot of times it means they want peace. Most of the time it means they want fulfillment, because they say, they want happiness, and then they try to buy something that's going to make them happy, or they try to marry somebody that's going to make them happy, or whatever, and that never actually works, because what they're really wanting is fulfillment. Anyway, I digress here a little bit. So, the community is what gives me just tremendous fulfillment. Working with, it's called Home, which stands for Helping Our Music Evolve. That's the name of the community. Everybody out there, if you want to look it up, it's homeformusic.org. And we call our members homies. So,
Hey,
so whenever I
let's
refer to
go.
when I
That's
refer to
cool.
them, I'm
I
going
did
to
not
talk
see
about
that coming, even
I'm going to
even
talk
though
about the
I
homies.
should have thought
All
about
right,
it.
yeah. So these are the homies that I serve, and that it's been so amazing to watch people grow through all of these resources. And the idea is we want it to be essentially very similar to joining like a CrossFit gym, right? And I don't do CrossFit, so I'm not. But what I understand is those kinds of people that go do that, they're like really into it, and they put in the work, right? And they really go hard, and they're dedicated on a different level than like your typical gym user, right? And so there's this cultural thing that we want people that are really dedicated to being like their very best selves in all capacities, and that includes music. And so the reason being for that is because it's so damn hard. Okay. So if you're not ready to just go like all out crazy on this industry, just do something else. Right. Like it's so hard to get truly significant and sustainable revenue in the music industry is extremely challenging. That being said, it is possible. So I don't want to be like doom and gloom over here. It's so possible, and sync is a huge way of making that happen in the short term for people. So we have our this thing is set up. I used a lot of ideas from like business incubators whenever I was setting this up. And I originally, whenever I first rolled it out, I called it a music incubator. And that was the name of of like how I described the concept to people, what they would call the category. So, the idea that, with business incubators, you can go in and you can surround yourself with other entrepreneurs who are going hard, who are really investing in themselves, who are trying different tools and different things. And you can work with them in the same place. You can get around workshops and mentors, and you can find investors to pitch to and all of that, right? So it's very, very similar to that. And we just basically look at the facility itself as a means to building the business.
Mm.
So it's ultimately, home exists to create business outcomes for people.
Mm.
It exists as a path for you to be able to actually treat a music career as an entrepreneur in a major way, where you have significant infrastructure that you can actually afford. You have, again, you're working around other people who are really dedicated to their craft and really good at what they do. People with different skill sets, where you have people that are doing blogs, or you have people that are doing content, you have people that are doing marketing, you have people doing management, you have, our primary thing is serving the creator. So that's our primary stakeholder. But our goal has always been to attract the entire ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So the mission of Home is to provide a supportive community for artist development and music production. And, it took me a long time to whittle down the mission statement to being that simple. And that's another tip I would tell people that want to start a crazy business that nobody's done before. Whittle down the mission as much as you can and try to get it precise. And so the two things that I guess there's really four pieces to that statement. Support, because I felt like I didn't have any support in the music business. It just felt like I was just out there beating my head against the wall, trying to do it all by myself from my bedroom or whatever, right? I'm sure
Mm.
people listening can resonate with that.
Mm.
Artist development didn't seem like it made any sense anymore, because record labels were no longer developing artists, right? So
Mm.
artists are just expected to develop themselves in their bedroom or whatever, and on TikTok, and that's how you develop a truly timeless and meaningful artist. That seems whack, right? And then music production, understanding that music production, the tools had gotten easier and easier, and that you didn't need consoles anymore. Like I'm not sitting at an SSL or a Neve console right now. We have the Apollo X8P, and we've got, a couple of choice pieces of outboard gear. And but it's totally plug and play, where you can roll in with your laptop and just dock right into this station right here and just be, we have really nice monitoring system, and the room itself and the treatment's very, very nice. And that's really what you need. So it was supportive community, artist development, music production. And those are basically the four pillars that I've been focused on, or that we've been focused on since day one. And so as people come in, we try to give them a sense of community first, where the first thing is trying to get you plugged in with people, right? Like, who do you need to know that's already part of the organization and knows how things work? Because, it's a community fundamentally. And then we want to give you support. And a lot of times the first level of support we give you is training on the facility. So if you're in person, we have an online community as well, so people can join from anywhere. But most of our members still join from Nashville, and they come in and they join the facility, and then we have to train them on the facility, right? Because our model is you use it like it's your own home.
Mm.
So if you book a session at midnight, nobody's going to be in here to help you set up. You better know how it works. And, that's a big deal. It's weird. Nobody's doing that, right? So that's been a huge sort of component to what we're doing, training people, giving them support, hands-on, letting them get hands-on to develop their craft using a lot of people that come in are dope at making music on a laptop, but then you show them a patch bay and they're like, I, I don't know what that is. Like, I've never
Yeah.
used that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand. So, and that's not a knock. It's just how it is. And so we're really trying to fill the gap between a home studio, right? What everybody's working in, probably where you're at right now. And then the like big time old school studios, right? Our goal is to sit in the middle where we have a lot of the amenities that you would need from a nice big studio. It's commercial, it's 24/7, but we're really catering to people that are on the come up and that are, outgrowing their bedroom. They're outgrowing their basement. They have important clients that they don't want to bring in there, right? Um, so, and then a lot of our programs focus on developing artists, and then a lot of our programs focus on music production. And within that, we have these pitch events that happen, and that's where we, bring in the sync reps. We've brought in music supervisors, and we've got a disco library that we're putting together as well. We've got an in-house A&R program where we've got some of our top members who are like already crushing it in the sync game. They can basically pick out other members and put them all in a room together and give them a brief to to work on stuff, um, and then basically just help them, get their chops up for doing sync and making records that have like a sort of immediate commercial value, not just a artistic value.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
and we
that
have
it's
mentors as well. So there's business mentorship. So on top of that, all
let's
smashed
go.
together. Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah, I'm thinking I might have to immerse myself one time in this and like I might have to come out to Nashville maybe next year before PMC or something like that.
Please. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
goes.
usually do the music biz conference here. So that's it's a good time to come through.
Yeah, yeah, we'll talk about this later, but I feel like yeah, it's just this ability to have many people from different levels, and like I think that's a powerful thing by itself, because people that's the thing, like right now today I feel like the thing that has me resisting the most, like creating the most resistance in me, is people just reaching out cold and saying, hey, I want to work with you, kind of thing, like, hey,
Mm,
what's up, let's collabo. But when you're in a space with many creatives, you cannot do that. Like it's just the distinct difference that will always stay between online and offline is it just nothing will be able no AI will be able to switch these things, because if I like you and you're a bit below me in the sync game, I'll go of course I'm taking you for this brief, because I know
mhm,
you. And in online, I feel like there is this level of investment that is inevitably a bit lower, because I don't see
mm.
you in real life every day. I feel like we
Absolutely.
wouldn't have the bond we have if we wouldn't have met in real life. It's just
That's
that.
absolutely
It's just
true.
that. We've
Mhm,
walked, we've gotten our hands a little bit dirty. We walked from one place to the other. We went to waterfalls. It's just like there's this power to it that I don't think you can find in just online. And that's my question to you is, okay, so when you upgraded from online to offline, what happened? Like what were the main things that you started seeing that you were surprised about?
what do you mean, went from online to offline?
So you started the community online, right?
No, no,
No.
created a
Okay.
platform so that because I was thinking through, like, okay, what happens when somebody signs up? How do I get them connected? Because I did at least know, I will give myself credit for understanding the importance of community, and like connecting people to each other was going to be a huge piece of the puzzle. And
Mm.
so I came up with essentially a member directory model first. And it had a little basic social feed, but we also built in the booking count. So I needed a custom like booking software to book, or at least what I thought. I actually didn't need custom, come to find out, but this is what you learn. So
Yeah.
anyway, I built all this stuff in preparation so that whenever we found the space, I actually had a lot of this like back end technological stuff figured out, thankfully. But no, the first product is the space.
Mm.
Well, is the physical community, I'll say. Really, the product itself is the community, but people think of it as an in-person thing for the most part. And during COVID, we just got a lot more nerdy about how to deliver as much value as we could online.
Mm.
And so we've steady been growing that ever since. We've got like one dude that'll jump in and chime in from like Nigeria. And we got a guy that joined from Austin a couple weeks ago. So it's really cool because we're not really marketing the online thing very hard other than like the occasional podcast or something. But I'm not out there like running ads for the online community yet. That will be a thing eventually, but um, first things first, it's like the the like to your point, especially creative music people, feely type people, right? I'll just say like
Yeah.
we want to be around other people.
Mm.
And a lot of times it's funny because even music people who aren't necessarily extroverted, because I feel like a lot of us aren't truly extroverts.
Yep.
We need like smaller kind of like, hangs where we can, in a more intimate setting. And again, we're bonded by this sense of culture of like, we're here to do this professionally. We're investing in ourselves and in our craft and in our business. We're taking this seriously. That goes a long way to where you'll kind of forgive the fact that somebody doesn't know how to produce very well yet. Right.
Mm.
Because it's like, maybe that's not really what they're going to end up doing long term. Maybe they're going to end up being a manager. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes people, we put together this thing called the homies alignment, which is like a kind of, it's like this sort of philosophical code that we have for everybody, like our 10 commandments kind of thing.
Mm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is, we can all win if we choose to play the right game. And a lot of times people forget that it's their choice to choose which game they're playing.
Mm.
And people think about things so much in terms of competition, and they think that they've got to play the exact same game as somebody else and play it better. And
Mm.
that's not true at all. You have to
Mm.
play a different game, and you have to play it in your own way. And, to your point earlier, like it is important to be able to be a little bit fluid in your identity of just like, I thought for sure when I moved out here, I was like, either I'm going to make it like as a songwriter, maybe like a utility player or an artist. But I was like, those are like my things. And it served me so much whenever I started first seeing myself as a producer. And then I started seeing myself more on the artist development side. And it's really been a beautiful thing to open myself up to these other possibilities while also like I still play music. So I think that as strange as it is, I'm looking at it's been 6 years since we opened home. And if I would have spent the same 6 years building my music career, full time, who knows? But I would say the likelihood is that I'm more connected and more prepared now if I were to push hard and back into the music space it's like I have everything I need now,
Mm,
and so I could do it so much faster than I could have back then, right? So, it's definitely it's been a very challenging thing, but at the same time, it's like, again, going back to the purpose things, feeling like it's really, I'm like uniquely suited to be doing this. So
yeah. Which is, I mean, like you're describing something interesting. It's kind of the essence of what it means to be a label, actually. Like if I'm thinking about it
yeah.
from a perspective, because what you're doing, when you're a label or an agency or whatever, all you're doing is connecting a bunch of people that make really dope music, and you kind of get it all together. You put it out in a way that's monetarily, hopefully beneficial for both of you, and uh, um, and I mean that's a form of art by itself. And I feel like it's a way to bring yourself more of what you were initially planning to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's why it
exactly.
fascinates me.
Absolutely.
Like label owners fascinate me. Edit um just people who are on top of the business side really fascinate me, because there has to be an artistic motive to it. Of course, maybe not when you're a universal, because I mean, like you're a business predominantly, but I feel like, especially in sync, most of the publishers, most of the library owners are actually artists,
Hmm.
which is it's an interesting thing. It's just like it's kind of where I feel like I want to be in the future, is a person who knows the business from has a perspective on the business where he can help elevate other people,
Hmm.
and then create something of my own. I still feel resistance towards it. I still haven't acted on it. Maybe I have, because I have brought artists to work with me on albums, but like it's just I feel like that's the outlook that you've had. It's kind of like a 360 of how do we make this actually work,
Hmm.
in a world where there are so many people who identify themselves as musicians but don't try to do it on the daily basis, or like people who tell me, I'm a rapper, I'm a whatever. And the question I have is, did you write a rap today? And
Right.
then
Yeah.
like, just I'm just saying, probably, if I'm being honest, probably 8 out of 10 would say no. And
Right.
then I would say, well, you're not a rapper today.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the thing with where I get really annoying and nuanced is here, because I feel like there's a lot of gray area here where people don't are uncomfortable to operate in. They're like, well, I include myself in this a lot of time. Well, I'll make a bunch of music for publishers. I'll make 6 figures, and that's going to be my life. And that's kind of like, it's a bit delusional, right? Because nobody will know where the world will be in 6 years. Nobody will know what will happen with AI in 6 years. Nobody
Oh yeah.
knows all these things. So I'm just curious about people like you, because you've created something for yourself that to me it's bulletproof. Why is it bulletproof? Because you are looking at things from a bird's eye view. You have to, because if you wouldn't have the space you have right now. Like you would have either been like in I hope you're not in crazy debt with like really sketchy people, or you're just like doing your thing, and you have to take in all the things. And as you were saying, you took in all the things. You took the opportunity to take in all these things and create opportunities for other people. And that's where the wonder is for me. That's where
Mm.
the like the it factor is for me. It's like, this is what the musicians who succeed are doing right. That's why I'm interested in all this, and that's why I'm kind of digging into things that may seem a little bit off to some people. Like they seem like, what do you care about the mindset? Tell me the stories, tell me the success, tell me this, tell me that. um and I just feel like this is more important. The more important thing is the wonder, the curiosity, and the ability to create something remarkable.
Yeah, you said it. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's the same. It's one and the same. You know, again, going back to like the judging the moment. So if you can treat your life like a creative act, or if you can treat your business like a piece of art, right? And if you can learn, so just like when you're making art, you feel like you're in the flow and like you're channeling this thing, when that melody hits you and you're like, oh, that's so dope or whatever. And, and
Yeah.
it feels like you're really tapped in and you're listening to something else that's out there. Right.
Right.
I mean, that's the way I've heard other people describe it. It's the only way I know how to describe it. And what that is a micro version of what you have to do to be a sort of like what I call artistic entrepreneur. So if you stretch out that process of creating a piece of art and you stretch it out to 10 or 20 years and you make your business that art, and you go through the process of getting that first idea and channeling it and then working through and actually muscling through, the 20th mix revision. You know what I'm saying? Like, the part where you're like, oh, and sometimes that's not true. The songs go, easier. And typically the better you get, the more often you find your stride within the creative process. And you just kind of like, oh, wow, that one was actually pretty fluid or pretty easy. But if you think of it on the same level as like your business or if your life in general, often use the term creating the life of your dreams, because my life is being around a lot of dope music people as the kind of people I want to hang out with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it was a very holistic plan, and again, I channeled it from somewhere else, and I was able to stick with it long enough to learn the instruments, learn the tech, learn the tools, learn the things, stick with it, come back to it, stick with it, stick with it, stick with it, stick with it. And, you know, if you can find this immense amount of joy within let's call it a 4-hour time span of making art, what's keeping you from finding the same immense amount of joy over a 40-year time span of creating this, like, life that you really want, whatever that looks like. And again, it goes back to fear. Over, like, we're just all dealing with that. Like, even in the studio, people are dealing with fear, um, even as I would say, especially in the studio, whenever you're green or whatever. Right. So that's the way I try to think of it, is like, you know, I catch myself judging things of like, oh God, I don't want to have to do another sales email or another, it's like, oh, the stuff that you have to do, or you create a new automation to help with this thing or that thing. And, all these like super nerdy business things that I never really pictured myself doing in the first place. But at the same time, if you zoom out and you can look at your life and go, wow, okay, I'm actually weaving a sort of tapestry of things with all of this that is adding up to a life that I really love and that I want. And you can see that trajectory, then it makes it worth it. And it makes you feel like, you're living life on your own terms. And I think that's what most musicians want. Out of life is, I want to do it on my own terms. I want to be me. I want to be creative, and I want to, you know, innovate and do things differently, make my own sound, make my own, leave my mark on the industry. I feel like most people.
How do you think that people can learn music business today without maybe going to a music university? How do you think they can educate themselves about the music business?
Oh, that's a great question. Just like a shameless plug, like I write a weekly newsletter, so I would send everybody to homie.news.
I'll put it in the
Um,
show notes.
yeah, and then you can find my podcast at homie.show as well. And I'm
Homie
doing
dot
my
show.
best to spin all these ideas out in my way, but there's a lot of great people out there teaching about the music business. I think at this point in time, not having access to the information is no longer an excuse.
Yep.
And I just don't think that moving forward that anybody, especially with AI and stuff, you have no excuse at this point. Like I can go and prompt an AI for like a good artist marketing plan, and it's going to get me like 80% of the way there. It's that good already. It's like it doesn't know, you know, all this stuff, but to like there's no like not having the information doesn't compute to me anymore. The information is we're swimming in information. Question is, who do you know? How do you know who to trust? And how do you know that you're making the right decisions? And that's really a lot of that boils down to strategy. Having a super clear picture of where you're going and a really dope plan for how to get there, right?
Mm,
And that's what a lot of music creators are missing out on, in my opinion. After I've coached hundreds of music creators at this point in time, um, and worked with probably over 1,000. And a lot of time it's just a complete lack of strategy, like a complete lack of clear goals, a complete lack of here's my best thought out plan of how to get to that goal, which is basically what a strategy is.
mm,
um and so that's really what I focus a lot on uh in my educational stuff, is helping people develop mindset and develop strategy. And like I said, I spend a lot of it into personal development too, because if you can just like program yourself to show up every day and kick ass, that's like 90% of the battle, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's like literally a program that you can figure out how to run in your brain,
mm.
So.
Yeah, man. I feel like that's a good a good place perhaps to leave our listeners with our round one. But what is there anything you'd like to kind of add before we leave? Anything about the community or your podcast, or anything that you're looking to I mean, just any last wisdom for the listeners on this podcast?
Sure. A couple of things, you know, just the fact that it's, sync gems. I want to bring it home a little bit with that. First of all, if there are people out there that are listening to this that, are pitching for sync, your sync rep, your sync agent, or you're a music supervisor, a media buyer, some kind, please reach out to us, Logan at homeformusic.org. We would love to get you plugged in with our community. Again, it's a nonprofit. It's something that you can kind of do good for the community and for the future of music, and just make yourself available to share your wisdom with the homies. So that's, little pitches like that is how we get people to come in and help out. And that was part of the vision, is as a collective, you have so much more bargaining power with people. And especially because we set this up as a nonprofit, I play that card a lot, because it really does make a difference. It's not about enriching me. It's about creating this new paradigm where music creators have the power. They have, that's what I tell people. We're putting the power back in the hands of music creators. With a home membership, the goal is that you will have everything you need to succeed and a clear path to get there. You still got to put in the work. Still, you just joined the CrossFit gym, right? So
Yeah.
it's like still a shit ton of work to do. But
Yeah.
having a clear path, knowing how to get, to that level of that high performance and develop the business that you want to develop. And that the goal is for there to be a home for music creators everywhere. So everywhere that there's a big population of music creators, we want one of these things to exist. Another analogy I use is the YMCA, how they're just kind of like, you see those things everywhere, and it's a nonprofit, and somehow they figured out how to put those things everywhere, and it's a great community for people to plug into. In a lot of places, some places it's sketchy or whatever, but no, home will never be sketchy as long as I'm alive. So, but the idea is that, we're setting this up to scale. And I still believe that is, when the vision was put, into my soul or whatever, that was it. It was like, this is going to be a big thing. Like, and it was scary. And it still is scary. It's always one, because what got you here won't get you there. Right. So as soon as you accomplish one thing, there's a whole new mountain that you have to climb. You finish that mountain and there's a whole new mountain beyond that one that you have to climb, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's kind of what I would leave people with, is don't be scared to take on something big. Don't judge the situation. Stay focused in the present moment. Keep your power by owning your life and owning your decisions, not being a victim. And just believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, that's, there's almost nothing that you can't do within reason. If you really truly believe that you can do it, it's pretty wild. So,
Right. And before we get out, how can people find you, get in contact with you, get in contact with your community?
sure. Yeah, you can find me on all the social medias. You can, just look me up on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, Mindset and Music. That's what it is on X as well, as Mindset and Music. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm not super active on social media. It's one of those things where I love to write. I love to put out my newsletter and to do educational things and to coach and stuff like that. But social media is a big thing. So if you reach out and I don't get back to you immediately, like, I'm not trying to throw any shade.
Yeah.
Reach out to me. My email address is logan@homeformusic.org. Very, very open. You can reach out through our website and stuff too. You can go to homeformusic.app and you can create a free account on our community and just start engaging with all the homies. And yeah, would love to hear from people. If you found out about that, about the community through this, shoot me a DM once you create your account, and we'll chat it up.
Hell yeah. Man, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Roy. That's great.